All right, chat. So we're finally back making some content. Like I said, school was definitely holding your boy back for the last 2 weeks, but we are finally back making some content. And today we got a very interesting topic to talk about. So today, I want to talk about the subjectivity of difficulty within fighting games. So I already see some of you guys in the Twitch chat asking why are we on Granblue Fantasy Versus. I know you guys have not seen this game on the Twitch stream in a while. By the way, if you are watching this on YouTube, what are you doing? Follow your boy at /DIDNT on Twitch. So we can have a good time and have discussions and play some games together. But anyway, we are talking about the difficulty in fighting games. So the reason we are on this game is because this is the game that really got me to question the subjectivity of fighting games. So there was a friend of mine who I'm not going to mention by name was trying to learn a game outside of Dragon Ball Fighter. Dragon Ball Fighters were their first game that they played as far as fighting games go, and they wanted to step outside of Dragon Ball Fighters to get ready for Stride. It's like, hey, what game should I play? I was like, oh, I think Granblue would be a pretty nice segue into like Strive. It doesn't have air dash or something, but they'll get used to just doing different things outside of like what Dragon Ball teach you. I was like, yeah, I think Granblue will be a nice game for you to pick up. So it would teach him like some different fundamentals than like what Dragon Ball usually teach. The footsie game inside of like Dragon Ball is completely different from like a game like this. So it'll teach him like a more solid ground-based footsie game, which I think is very strong inside of Guilty Gear, right? So I was saying pick up Granblue. So this game I thought would be very easy because of how easy the execution of things. I mean, you got auto combos and EX. Some of your strongest combos in this game are literally heavy EX, heavy super, right? Like you've seen it all the time. That was like the game for a long time, and that's pretty much like some optimal punishes when it comes to this game. Pretty simple stuff. However, the other things that I did not account for that would be difficult for him was the simple thing as just doing link confirm. So doing stuff like this. So doing stuff like where you're going into your normal, and then you like, okay, then you go into your special move at the end. This was pretty difficult for him for some reason, and I felt like this was a very easy thing. I was like, how do you miss this? And he had a very hard time hitting this. And I'm like, when you're crouching, always do the 2M, and like he would miss the 2M, and then he'll go into the boot, and the boot would just like get him punished or whatever. He'll just get like punished for doing stuff. And I'm like, this is very interesting that he is having a difficult time like doing the basic things that we like. I showed him in training room or stuff like that, or I went in a Discord call or PlayStation share play with him and like tried to show him the basic stuff like that. Having very difficult situation with things like that. So this led me to ponder the question about difficulty within fighting games. We always say things are easy or this hard. This is easy, this is hard as far as execution and things go, but we never really take into account about who is doing the type of things that we're saying is easy or hard within fighting games. What is easy for one person may be pretty difficult for another person. I remember an account that I told many times on this channel about my air dash problem. When I started Guilty Gear, I wanted to play Milia Raid inside of Guilty Gear Exard, and she had a combo that you pretty much had to do. I believe it was like JD, IAD, JD into JH, and I couldn't do the JD, IAD into the JH. It was just too hard for me. I don't know why I couldn't jump cancel an IAD as fast as they wanted you to do. So what I did for an entire summer, so about 2 to 3 months, I literally did air dash for an hour a day every day I woke up. Literally, it was just a ritual. Every day I woke up, for an hour a day, I would practice instant air dash on both sides. And that's how I learned how to do it. It took me 2 to 3 months to learn a simple thing that people would say is pretty easy. Now, all of a sudden, in these games nowadays, back in my day, you had to manually input. Now we got button inputs for air dash and stuff like that. But this was something that I really wanted to get down in order to play that character. From the research that I've done from people who actually did tests on difficulty within video games, it seems like they did different tests from what they did from the subjective versus the objective. So for the objective, it seems like the main test that I see going around is having people of the same stature or people of the same skill level within the game itself, via their complete novice, never tried it, or like tournament pro level players or whatever. Have them test a thing and come to a consensus of how they feel about something, and this will typically explain like how would they feel about via something is being difficult or not. And sometimes it goes outside of the scope of the game. For example, if we're talking about becoming a top player, right, this is going to be something that I think a lot of people will say is pretty difficult. Being a top player within fighting games, even though this is outside of playing the game itself, this is something that a lot of people will probably say is an objective difficulty of fighting games. So a lot of the objective difficulties when it comes to fighting games may be things outside of the fighting games themselves, because once again, the top players within a fighting game would definitely probably say doing something like a link combo, like we were just showcasing, would be something that is seemingly much easier, rather than a novice who will probably think that is hard. So overall, I think the main point of this quick topic chat is basically things that you find difficult in fighting games or things you find easy within fighting games is not necessarily going to be easy or, you know, difficult for the next person. You know, you'd be like, oh yeah, this thing is like pretty hard, I wouldn't recommend it. And then like person was like, oh, that's pretty easy, I can do that consistently. What were you talking about? You're like, what? Like how? Like, you know, you say something like, you know, this is like really easy, and they're like, no, this is extremely hard. What are you talking about? Like, I constantly, and like, you know, I get bashed for saying this, and this is just because it's difficult for me. Now there's things that I feel like are time difficult, meaning that is not really something that is inherently difficult itself. It's just the process of learning it is what is difficult in the first place. For example, if there is a fighting game character style that you're not used to, then this could be difficult to understand. Maybe the character is easy, right? But then the character could be hard to you because you're not used to that style of play. The prime example is for me, which like I said, I get bashed for, is when I say people that play Strive and they play Soul, they play Ramlethal, or they play Leo, got to be the biggest brain players in the entire world, because those characters to me are extremely hard. That type of play style, I just do not understand. Like, I'm used to playing characters that I feel like is always constantly like doing something. Like, you know, Soul, yeah, you can say Unga Bunga Soul, but like, you know, when you look at like really high level Soul, it could be aggressive, but for the most part, it's a lot of whiff punishes and stuff like that, right? Like a lot of back and forth. But like characters that I usually play, like Millie, or like these like other fast characters that you look like Elfeld and Exard, these are characters that feel like they're always constantly doing something on the screen, right? But it is a little bit more, I feel like, methodical when it comes to at least the Soul gameplay. And like the Ram, you know, is a little bit more grounded. Yes, you can't hit her that well, but you really got to like space out things and like be able to hit confirm and stuff like that. Millie is just knock him down, run it. Elfeld was just knock him down, run it. You know, it's a completely different game plan. In this game, Granblue Fantasy, I play Lil You know, he's always doing something. At full screen, I'm eating, I'm tossing out bros, I'm tossing out Robo Catalina. Like, I'm always doing something, rather than Gran, who's literally sitting here and doing this, maybe toss out a fireball and just like, you know, trying to hit you with like, you know, the big button or whatever, trying to get the whiff punish or whatever. Completely different game plan. And that's why when I played this game, I was like, yo, I switched from Gran, who was a very strong character inside of Granblue when the game first came out, vanilla Gran, you know, boot to God, you know, that this man was out here. I switched from him, who was probably like, you know, top 3 in the game at that time, to bottom tier Lil Wayne, because Lil Wayne felt easier. And guess what? It was the best choice I made, because I was doing much better. I was much better in my comfort zone with that character. I played Gran because I was like, yo, I played Granblue. I like the character Gran. Gran's my dude. Vegeta wasn't in the game. I'd rather play Vegeta, but she wasn't in the game in the beginning. But anyway, you get the point, right? Playing your playstyle, that is essentially going to be something that is going to be easier, even though playing Gran may not seemingly be inherently hard, right? It's not something that's probably hard. He's probably an easy character. It's just, it's difficult for me. It's a time difficult thing. So that was a little bit harder to describe the like timely difficultness. Rather, it's somewhere in between the objective difficulty and the subjective difficulty. You guys let me know exactly how do you feel about that type of difficulty. Let me know down in the comments below for the people that's watching on YouTube. How do you guys feel about that type of difficulty within fighting games? What do you think it like goes between? So anyway, chat, just wanted to bring this to you guys' attention, because next time you talk to your friends and you're talking about something that is difficult, just know you're probably talking about subject difficulty within the game, subjective difficulty. So it is something that is apparent. And of course, I wanted to bring this to attention for people that is finding things difficult in fighting games that people are saying it's easy and you're having a hard time with it. It may not just be your fault. Maybe it's just something that is difficult for you, and everybody has their own learning process as far as how long it takes to learn certain things. So anyway, I hope somebody found this message useful. As always, like anything I had to say, drop me a like, I greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, follow me on socials. Also, don't forget to subscribe and turn notifications so you know the next video goes live. As always, my name is DIDNT, and I'll see you next time. Signing out.